Good afternoon to all of you. My name is Cuthbert Musingwini. I'm the head of School of Mining Engineering here at WITS. But this afternoon, I'm standing before you as your program director. And I must preface the proceedings of this afternoon by just highlighting that none of us are ever prepared for a somber moment such as the one that is before us this afternoon. None of us can ever be prepared for moments like this in life. We are not even sure when this happens to us whether we should sing, we should cry, we should shout, we should question why. But it's all for a reason that is beyond us. So, as we are gathered this afternoon, we have a lineup of people who are going to be saying some words of reflection, saying some words of recollection in memory of our departed colleague, Professor Josias van der Merwe, who was the head of School of Chemical and Metallurgical Engineering here at WITS. And I have personally fond memories of Josias. And it even goes back to when we hired him as head of school for the School of Chemical and Metallurgical Engineering. I was already head of School of Mining Engineering. Professor Ian Jandrell, back then, was the Dean of the Faculty of Engineering and the Built Environment. And we interviewed, and we found Josias appointable and suitable to lead the School of Chemical and Metallurgical Engineering at WITS, here at WITS. And since then, I've had very cordial relationships with him. Mining and metallurgy go hand in hand. And I've been saying to Josias' family earlier on that Josias and I in faculty exec meetings, we used to sit opposite each other. And when we are up to our tricks, we would always wink at each other and just create problems for our dean. And so to me, he was like my younger brother, because Josias was younger than me. And he used to call me the Madala one. And like I said, we had a very cordial working relationship. And it's said that we have to meet under such circumstances. But I think befitting to what Josias was as a person, I think it's also a moment for us to celebrate a life well lived. And for us to get underway with proceedings for this afternoon, I would like to invite Professor Thokozani Majozi, who is our Dean for the Faculty of Engineering and the Built Environment, to welcome us all and pay his tribute. Over to you, Toko.
the family of Prof. Josias van der Merwe that is joining us on this occasion to celebrate his legacy, esteemed guests, colleagues, students, friends, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. We gather here today with heavy hearts to honor and remember our dear friend and colleague, Professor van der Merwe, the head of school of our chemical and metallurgical engineering. Josias's sudden passing has left a void in our academic community that will not easily be filled. As a matter of fact, as I was putting together this tribute, I paused a bit around that, whether I should say not easily be filled or that will not be filled. The jury is still out on that. As we come together to celebrate his life and legacy, I'm reminded of the profound impact he had on our institution, on our students, and the field of metallurgy as a whole, metallurgical engineering, which was his expertise, and specifically corrosion. Professor van der Merwe was not just an accomplished scholar and researcher, but a visionary leader who propelled the School of Chemical and Metallurgical Engineering to greater heights. To those who might not know, the School of Chemical and Metallurgical Engineering is by far the most prolific in terms of research outputs in the faculty. It has the highest number of NRF-rated researchers. It has the highest number of postdoctoral fellows. It has the highest number of PhD students, and the list goes on. Now, I must say, ladies and gentlemen, that that does not happen in a vacuum. You need strong leadership for that to happen. It just does not happen on its own. His groundbreaking work in corrosion engineering has laid the foundation for innovations that will continue to shape our world for years to come. A highly recognized figure in his field of expertise. In May this year, in the aftermath of that devastating explosion, some of you might remember, that devastating explosion at the Kucha steel manufacturing facility in the Eastern Cape. It is Prof. Josias van der Merwe that was called upon to provide a preliminary report into what could have happened. I remember vividly receiving a call from him literally in the middle of the night because he had to leave the following morning. So he was asking me to approve his leave because he was going to be leaving the following morning. He was called by the authorities in the Eastern Cape to please come over and give his report on this. Now, those authorities in the Eastern Cape could have approached any other institution. We are not the only ones who have metallurgy. We're not the only ones who have corrosion experts. They could have gone anywhere, but they came here because of Josias van der Merwe. Beyond his academic achievements, Josias was a mentor. He was a friend, as you've heard from Prof. Musingwini, and an inspiration to all who had the privilege of crossing paths with him. His passion for teaching and nurturing the next generation of engineers was evident in every conversation and every late night spent guiding students through complex problems. Josias and I is one of those, we used to speak any time of the day, any day of the week. I could call Josias on a Saturday or Sunday. Anytime when I needed something, I knew Josias would be there. And I knew if I sent a message, it was going to be responded to almost immediately. He was just like that. He was a devoted teacher and always true to his word. That particular trait of his behoves us to reflect a bit more on what transpired in the last 2 weeks. Prof. van der Merwe collapsed at his home, as you would have heard, on Tuesday, and was only discovered the following day around lunchtime. It gives you about 12 hours thereabout on his own. And that was after he had missed his double lecture that normally takes place between about 10:15 and 12 o'clock on Wednesdays. He missed it. And there were several messages sent to him which went unanswered. He had also promised one of the colleagues here, Mr. Paul Denwood, that he was going to bring a cake that morning because Paul was celebrating his 65th birthday. That was about 10 o'clock, just before his lecture. Again, that was not honored. Now, summing it all up, everyone said, something is definitely amiss. This is not like Josias. Something is just wrong. Now, colleagues, I want to ask you, truly speaking, how many of us seated here would have triggered that response by simply not delivering on their promise for the cake and not turning up for the lecture as expected? How many would have made everyone tremble that something is wrong? That alone tells us of the person that you are celebrating this afternoon. And it is at that moment that someone was sent to check on him and made a horrific discovery. We were all shook beyond belief. And that marked the beginning of a true nightmare. A shock that grew to pain, then despondence, and ultimately accepting the unthinkable. I felt firsthand the coldness of that space that lies beyond all what work of man can achieve. Everything humanly possible was tried to save Josias, but it was too late. Josias fought a good fight right till the end, way beyond where most of us would have given up. To some of us, the shock in the main was not so much about the accident as it was about the fact that it happened to Josias. Josias was arguably the fittest member of our faculty executive committee. We used to tease him thus. He had at least 17 comrade marathons under his belt. He had never displayed signs of any underlying illness. This year, Comrades Marathon was on Sunday, the 9th of June, I recall. Josias was with us at work on Friday, the 7th of June. It was the second day of our industrial advisory board. Some members of FEXO are here. And I remember telling him that he looks too relaxed for someone who was going to be running the ultramarathon within 48 hours. I had expected him to be preparing or busy preparing at that time and then send an apology as to why he could not be with us. His response was very simple. Preparation for a comrade is a full year commitment. 2 days won't make any difference. And guess what? He ran and won a bronze medal for it. Now, there is something that I've never said anywhere, which I'm going to say today. And the intention was never to say it, because it's supposed to be the card that I play very close to my chest. But because today is not an ordinary day, I'm going to share something with you. As I began to assume positions of leadership in various aspects of my life, I grew in this habit of putting together a spreadsheet of people that I lead versus the traits that need not be in my faculty executive committee, in my boardroom, in my council, or wherever I find myself. So not long ago, I read this book by Susie and Jack Welch, and they said there are 5 people that you don't want in your boardroom. This would also apply to your faculty executive committee. These 5 people, ideally, you shouldn't have. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen that they're never there. But ideally, you should. They said the first one is a Kabbalist. A Kabbalist is someone who, when there's an issue to be discussed, he forms a little committee outside the meeting to discuss the issue. And he arrives at a conclusion. So when you come to discuss in the meeting, the decision has been taken somewhere, and that becomes very difficult for everyone in the room. The second one is white flag. White flag is someone who will never have his own opinion. They wait patiently for everyone to deliberate on an issue until they have a sense of where things are going. They will always go with the wind. They don't have a position. That's white flag. You don't want that person in your room. The other one is a meddler. Someone who is very atomistic in how they do things, very granular, who doesn't understand that leadership is about giving space to people to do what they do best, not meddle in what they do best. The other one is a do nothing. Someone who won't contribute anything. I mean, you know when you give a task to this person, it's not going to get done. And then lastly, the pontificator. The pontificator is someone who, when there's something to be discussed, a decision to be made, they tell you about how best they are in what they do, and the things they've done wherever they've been, where we've never been there. We are here now. We need all your skills here, not where you've been. These are 5 people you don't want in your leadership. So I have a spreadsheet with all my ExCo, and I have these traits. And I can tell you, fortunately for me, that spreadsheet is a sparsely populated matrix, meaning that there are very few elements there, but I can assure you, God knows, that under Prof. Josias van der Merwe's column, there's nothing there. He's neither of all those things. And I can see colleagues looking at me very strongly now. Colleagues, come and talk to me, I'll tell you where you fit in. Okay. So that's, I was supposed to play very close to my chest. You didn't even know there was such a spreadsheet. There is a spreadsheet like this. Now, one wise man once said, I know only one thing, and that is, I know nothing. I know only one thing, and that is, I know nothing. It is at times like these that those words have meaning. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's true. It's not that we do not know. It's that we cannot know. We might influence everything, but we are not in control. We control nothing. In simple terms, what this means is that making the best use of now is not a choice, but what is expected of all of us at all times. We do not know what tomorrow holds. It's all in the hands of God. The sudden change that literally 24 hours makes is huge. It is that shock, that sudden, that energy level shift that really keeps us trembling up to this day, since the time I had. I mean, I met some former students in the School of Chemical Engineering. One of them is now a lecturer, Desmond Clenham. I meet them as I'm walking to the office in the building with his colleague. They come to me and say, Josias just collapsed. And then they narrate the story to me. Just like that. That was the beginning of 2 weeks of intense exhaustion because we had to go and see this. We were very hopeful that something miraculous was going to happen. So I'll close because I see the program director is saying to me I must sit down. I'll try to drive to the close. So as we reflect on Josias' life today, let us remember 4 things. His unwavering commitment to excellence in both research and education, the warmth and humor he brought to our faculty meetings and corridor discussions, the countless lives he touched and careers he shaped, his dedication to fostering a diverse and inclusive environment within the school and the faculty. Let's remember all this. These are values that Josias upheld, and let's live by those. In the coming days and weeks, we will be discussing the possibility of establishing a memorial scholarship in Professor Josias' honor, ensuring that his legacy of innovation and mentorship will continue to inspire future generations of engineers. He is no longer with us, yes, but his spirit lives on in each of us. As we proceed with today's service, I invite each of the speakers to share your memories and stories of Josias with us. Together, let us celebrate a life well lived, a career of remarkable achievement, and a colleague who became family to so many of us. To the Van der Merwe family, Emil, Etienne, Yael, whom I grew to know during this difficult time, and all the family members, we share in your grief, and we are profoundly grateful for the years you shared Josias with us. Please note that our entire university community stands firmly with you as you go through this trying time. You are in all our prayers. Thank you for being here today, everyone, as we honor the extraordinary life and legacy of Professor Josias van der Merwe. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Majosi, for that fitting tribute to our departed colleague, Josias. And you have shared with us your perceptions of Josias the leader, Josias the teacher, Josias the researcher, Josias the humble person, and Josias the friend. And many of us have a recollection of his never-ending smile. That's how you'd know that you are in the vicinity, you are in the company of Josias. I would like now to call upon Professor Jeffrey Simate, who is our Assistant Dean for Research, but who is also a staff member in the School of Chemical and Metallurgical Engineering that was headed by Professor Josias van der Merwe. Professor Simate, if you can come to the podium, please.
Thank you, Mr. Program Director, members of the Van der Merwe family, the Faculty Dean, Professor Majosi, staff and students of the School of Chemical and Metallurgical Engineering, all the online participants, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. My task at the moment is very simple. I'm going to read the obituary of Professor van der Merwe. Josias Willem van der Merwe, aged 50, passed away unexpectedly on Friday, September 20, 2024, at Eugene Merwe Hospital in Pretoria. He was born on June 21st, 1969 in Pretoria, and he was one of the three sons to Josias and Diana. He is survived by his older brothers, Emile and Etienne, with their wives and children. Josias was an associate professor and head of school in the School of Chemical and Metallurgical Engineering here at FITS. He was very passionate and committed to his work, his students, and his country's future. Josias lived life to the fullest. His other passions included running, biking, and hiking. He completed the comrades, as the dean mentioned, 17 times, and was a member of the Agape running club. He had friends all over the world, where he climbed mountains and ran races. He had the capacity to love people from all walks of life. Josias, though he was never married, he played a huge role in many people's lives and touched many with his kindness, generosity, and gentleness. He was a man of great integrity and humility, reflecting the life of Jesus Christ in him. He had a capacity to love people from all walks of life and would be sorely missed. May Josias' soul rest in peace, and may his memory be a source of comfort and inspiration to all who knew him. I think at this moment, let me just say one thing, just to show you how Josias was. When our former head of school, his term came to an end, he was in the school executive with me and many others. So at that moment, we looked around and amongst ourselves, because at least one of us was supposed to act during the period when we were looking for the new head of school. And so what we did was we gave ourselves homework, just to go and consult ourselves internally and do some sort of a raffle. And what we noticed is of all the executive members in the school, they chose Josias to be our acting head at that time. So you can actually see the love that everybody had to Josias, and also knowing that he would take the school to higher heights. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Simate, for sharing with us that obituary. I think the key takeaway for me there is around his character, the character of Josias, and two things really stand out. Love and integrity. And I wish that many of us could learn from the book of life for Josias in terms of those two underpinning principles of life, because that's what makes you human. I would like us now to all rise and observe a moment of silence in honor of Josias' life. Thank you. You may all be seated. I just want to be sure here. Do we now have, as the choir arrived from the School of Chemical and Metallurgical Engineering, I would like to then invite them to give us a musical item. So if the choir can please come forward. Thank you, choir, for those two calming songs, which speak directly to the calm demeanor of our departed friend, Josias. That's the person that he was. At this juncture, I would also just like to acknowledge the presence of our Deputy Vice Chancellor. He had back-to-back commitments, but he found it necessary that he had to squeeze in time to come and also be part of the proceedings this afternoon. So our DVC, Deputy Vice Chancellor for People Development and Culture, Professor Garth Stevens, is here with us. We would now need to move to the next item on our program, and I would like to invite Dr. Elias Matinde, who is the president of the Southern African Institute of Mining and Metallurgy, or SAIMM, a former staff member of the School of Chemical and Metallurgical Engineering, but currently working at Mintech as executive manager for pyrometallurgy. Elias, if you'd please come forward and just give us a tribute from the SIMM perspective.
Good afternoon, everyone present here, and good afternoon to those who are online. The Merwe family, academic staff, Wits University, academic staff and students, the School of Chemical and Metallurgical Engineering, the DVC, or protocols observed. My name is Elias Matinde, as introduced by the program director. And today, I stand before you wearing two hats. The first hat as a colleague of Josias van der Merwe from 2015, January 2015, when I joined the school as a senior lecturer, up to August 2019, when I finally left to go and work for Mintech. My second hat is myself representing the Southern African Institute of Southern African Institute of Mining and Metallurgy as a president, the current president, and also as someone who sits in various committees at the SIMM, responsible for skills development, responsible for stakeholder engagement, and also responsible for the mentoring and coaching and mentoring of our young professionals. And today, I would like to remember our departed dear friend, Professor Josias van der Merwe, within that context. I will start by going back to 2015 when I joined the school. I was new to teaching and learning. I was new at Wits. I was new in South Africa. Actually, I crossed the river from Zimbabwe. I left Zimbabwe on the 10th, and I started teaching at the school on the 12th of January 2015. And I must admit, I never really admit about that, but I must admit that I was very scared. I didn't know what I was doing. I always walked around with a brave face. And my colleagues in the school, Josias included, welcomed me and taught me the art and science of teaching and learning. My experience and my memories dealing with Josias were very cordial. He was always cool. He never complained. And those of you who know me, you know that I like to talk a lot. I complain a lot. Josias was a different person. He did his work diligently. He always made sure that he reminded you why you are here. We are here to teach. We are here for the students. And I really look back. I wish I'd listened more. You know, it's always a problem when you look back in retrospect and wished that I would have, listened to the words of wisdom, because you never know. It was for a good reason that we met. When I left the university, I joined Mintech, and COVID happened. I disappeared. I was supposed to be a visiting lecturer to come and assist with teaching, but it never happened. I disappeared. I was also struggling with workload. I took up more responsibilities. And fast forward to last year, Josias came to my office at Mintech, and we had a lot of dreams together. We were supposed to set up this collaboration between the pyrometallurgy division, which I am now responsible for, and the School of Chemical and Metallurgical Engineering in terms of postgraduate supervision, in terms of postdoctoral, supervising postdoctoral fellowships. I made promises that I didn't keep, and I'm not proud about it. I promised Josias that I will open our facilities in pyrometallurgy to postgraduate students at the School of Chemical Engineering, and I would like to make that commitment again. Hopefully this time I'll follow through with my commitment and make the same reiteration again in memory of Josias van der Merwe. I think it would be a travesty if we don't carry on this work with the same level of energy and love that Josias had. For me, I think I have been given a huge task to honor that commitment. I know I'm just a manager at Mintech. I don't make those decisions, but I stand before you. I would like to make sure that I keep my commitment the way I promised Josias 12 months ago. Fast forward to my role as the SIMM. Josias and I, we used to always talk about how we can improve the quality of graduates, the young professionals, who are the future of our industry. And it is very easy to, and I found it very easy, so I'm speaking as if he's still here, I found it very easy to connect with Josias along those lines, because I always used to tease him and say the quality of your graduates started to deteriorate the moment I left the school. So he always said, because he didn't come back to do what he was supposed to do. Josias was instrumental in renewing my contract as a visiting lecturer, which again, I did not honor, and I stand before you again feeling very bad. I think I really need to learn one thing from Josias' character, that if you keep your promise, if you make a promise, make sure you keep it. And I think this is some of the things that personally I regret not having done. We were colleagues. We enjoyed working together. The industry, the Southern African Institute of Mining and Metallurgy, particularly the Metallurgical fraternity, really valued the contribution of Professor Josias van der Merwe as the head of school. And we always used to say that the academics are the future of the industry, because through them we can then clone ourselves, we can regenerate the industry. And on behalf of the SIMM, I would like to extend my deepest and our deepest condolences to the van der Merwe family, to the School of Chemical and Metallurgical Engineering, to the university fraternity as a whole. And I would like to, before I leave the podium, I would like to reiterate once again to say the commitment that Professor Josias van der Merwe had in teaching and learning, in postgraduate supervision. And oh, by the way, I forgot, there was a time in 29th of May, I visited a plant in Emalahlen, and there I met two students who were being supervised by Josias and Merwe. They're in industry. And I kept on saying to them, why would you go to Josias? Is in corrosion. Why don't you come to me? I'm in pyrometallurgy. Because those guys are, engineers at a ferrochrome, a ferroalloys producing company. So it shows that the commitment, the reach, his way of doing things makes him very special, made him very special. Apologies for that. So in passing, on behalf of the SIMM, I would like to say again our sincere condolences, and may his dear soul rest in peace. I thank you.
Thank you, Elias, for sharing that perspective on the life of our dear friend, Josias. And my takeaway from your tribute on behalf of the SIMM is that that tribute speaks volumes to the professionalism that Josias had, particularly with the issue around keeping promises and sticking with your commitments. So, indeed, a giant has fallen, and I would like to just check in quickly and see that I hadn't seen Sunny, Professor EUK. Oh, you are here. Oh, okay. I would like to then invite Professor Sunny EUK, who is a former head of School of Chemical and Metallurgical Engineering, and will then speak on behalf of academic staff in the school, him being one of the senior academics in the school. Over to you, Sunny, if you can come forward.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Let me stand on the existing protocol. Actually, it's difficult to talk about Josias this way. Nobody was expecting this, and I was never expecting this kind of thing to have happened so soon to a very young man. It's nice to see all of you, the DVCs and others, but it would have been nicer for me if Josias has called me today to say, welcome people on my birthday, or welcome people for winning a marathon, or one of those things I do advise him about, some of those expected joyous events. Josias was employed into the School of Chemical and Metallurgical Engineering in June 2004, while he was completing his PhD from UP, University of Pretoria. At what point after this time, Josias looked stranded, and we were asking him what was the problem. He said he experienced burglary, and his thesis was about to submit, plus the computer have all been stolen. It was a torture, even with all of us, and he struggled. Imagine losing the computer, losing everything to somebody who does not know the value of what is carrying away. However, I finally got the PhD in 2013. So I would have expected, when I hear the news of his collapse in the house. That he collapsed and was found the next day. What happened to him? Was he knocked out? There was nothing like that. In my personal layman look of things, I was, as academic, I would have expected such thing to have happened when a whole PhD thesis was stolen. He survived that. But well, I'm not a medical doctor, but he succumbed. Because that day, Tuesday, we were all together, joking, smiling, and we all left. There was no sign of strain on the face. There was no sign of any difficulty, as you know Josiah to be. So he couldn't survive this, but he survived the thesis. If I were like him, when I finished my PhD by 1999, and I heard somebody stole my thesis, I think I would have collapsed and I would not wake up. And of course, perhaps that would have been better for me, because of the struggle. Now, when I was head of school, Josiah was the chairman of the computer committee. That was when we all saw his traits of humane, of help, selflessness, and always ready to help people. We ordered the computers, we ordered the printers, we fixed them and ensured they all worked. Now, when we also, all of this he was doing, he was teaching with the teaching load while he was still compiling his PhD thesis afresh. When we were doing renovation of the second floor of Richard Ward building, I was head of school, things were tough. Things were tough. And I called Josiah, please come. I think that time, Craig has just helped handling the 7th floor. I think I saw Craig coming in just now. Josiah handled it with ease, tirelessly, and of course, those who are in the school can see the value of the 2nd floor of Richard Ward. In terms of research, Josiah was a key member of the Center of SLS Drug Material, which was headed by Professor Leslie Cornish. Cornish, sorry, I did forget your name today. And he contributed a lot during that same time. Josiah contributed to buying a very special equipment in the school, which we are still using tomorrow. The field emission scanning electron microscope. So I'm sure one of the most expensive equipment in the school. And about that time, that was when I recommended him for promotion to senior lecturer, and of course, he got it. When he got it, I was about leaving being head of school, and I was very happy going to Alaska. So I called Josiah, will you come with me? He looked at me, Sonny, do you know it's very cold? I would come with you. That's to tell you how close we were. And as head of school, when I learned that Josiah has applied, they were applying for head of school, immediately I called him and said, man, I support you. Go for it because you have the traits, you have the value, you have the strength, you are young. Go for it. And of course, he went for it. And we all can attest to the output of being head of school so far till he now passed away. And in terms of jokes, I'm sure you all know, so those of us who are close to Josiah, he manufactures jokes. And he got them very rightly. There was a day, I think that was the day, the Tuesday, can't remember, or the 10th also. I came to his room, his office, actually to ask him about my difficult student. I have a difficult PhD student, and I've been telling Josiah, how can we help this guy? Josiah said, ask him to bring all his data. let me see if by next year I can provide him some money to pay his fees so that he can register again. Next year is not yet, but Josias is gone. Now, at that point, in his room, I rested my hands on this table like this, and I was moving my leg, my right leg, to and fro. You trust Josias? He looked at me, Sonny, do we bring you wheelchair or walking stick? I told him, Josias, walking stick will be fine for now, because I don't know where this leg is going to. That is to tell you, Josias gets the joke very quickly, and he gives you very quickly. A guy full of humor. But again, the supremacy of God, nobody can ask questions. Now the Lord has taken him from us so suddenly. Solely because, as Toko had mentioned, Dean has mentioned earlier, because he's healthy. He eats well. If you come to his room during lunchtime, he has peanuts or some nuts, which he throws into his mouth, and coffee. Someday I told him, Josias, is this what you take for lunch? All right. I would survive. And again, this is a marathon runner. Quite fit. Quite fit. Not like some of us with bulk density, you know, that you may need to measure many times to be sure what density it is. He's quite fit. Some of them ask him, Josias, I'm not sure I can look like you. Maybe many years ago when I was 17, yes. So that thought is difficult to comprehend. It's difficult to know whether you are heading enough to last the next 10 years or to last the next 1 hour. When I see how fit Josias is, this will not be one of the things I will think about. Not at all. But as for God's love, He knows the best for him. And of course, He knows the best for all of us. The Lord gave him, and He has decided to take him. What can we say? Or what can we do? So as for the family, colleagues, friends, and all of us, I pray the good Lord grants us the strength to bear this irreparable loss. And may His death also rest in peace. Thank you.
Spoken like an academic, which is what Josias was. And quite correct, Sunny, that with Josias you always would be smiling because, or laughing, because he had this art of, making things simple through jokes and so on. And I think some of the attributes you have touched on, Sunny, is what we expect of academics, because we are dealing with students, and that is the characteristic of being altruistic, thinking about the others first, and adaptability, that as things change, we need to be able to adapt. And you really have touched on that, Sunny. In a school, in the university, we have the academics and we have the professional and admin staff or PA staff that work closely with the academic staff. so that the school can function properly and students can be taught and can be supervised for their research. And I would like to then invite Ms. Lizelle Herman, who will then speak on behalf of the PAS staff in the School of Chemical and Metallurgical Engineering. Lizelle, if you can please come forward.
Afternoon all. Van der Merwe family, colleagues, students. I have a few tributes that some of the staff had sent me. If you can just bear with me to first do those. In my 19 years in Wits University, I have never felt a boss or manager like you. You welcomed me with open arms and made me feel at home. You were a friend, a big brother and colleague. I will never forget you. Farewell, my professor, because that's how I used to call you. That's from TD. It was just over a year ago when I first met Prof. He saw potential in me and gave me the opportunity to join the department. I believe most will concur with the fact that Professor was like a father. But they say, your father is only a man that will be truly happy when you are better than them. And Prof was exactly that. It was always of his best interest to see growth in the department, and he was one of the very few people who acknowledged and applauded when someone did well, personally and for the department. His life is a perfect definition of a life well lived. Until we meet again, Prof, continue to rest in peace. I will definitely bring more invoices to you to approve when I come to heaven. From Colin. Josie will be remembered for his kindness, loveliest good qualities, friendliness, selflessness, and humor. Always there for anyone who needed help. A person in our lives who never leave us, even if they are gone. From Bruce. If there's anything that we must learn from Prof's life, is compassion and empathy. He didn't have many answers to many problems we threw at him, but he always listened and empathized. Though we may not know what to do, but he held the space for you and made us all feel comfortable and seen. This I will miss. From Letter. O death, where is thy sting? Today we gather not to mourn the loss of a colleague, but to celebrate the life of an exceptional leader, mentor, friend, and even our very own dietitian. As the head of school, Josias was more than just a guiding figure in our academic and professional lives. He was a pillar of wisdom, kindness, and joy. Josias' contributions to the field of engineering was vast and undeniable. His passion for advancing the boundaries in engineering made him a respected name in South Africa and throughout the world. His work shaped not only academic landscape, but also the industry, leaving behind a legacy that will continue to inspire and inform us for many years to come. But more than his technical expertise, he was truly remarkable with his humanity. Josias had a way that made us feel valued. He led with kindness, always taking time to listen and encourage, offer words of wisdom. His door was always open and his heart always full. More often than not, Josias would have 3 meetings in his office. And anytime anyone popped their head in to ask a quick question, Josias welcomed everyone in, never mind that there was already 2 or 3 people in his office having a meeting with him. Some of the staff will know that I told them they've used all their tickets for this year, and they can only see him again in 2025. As our dietitian, I won't mention the names, but we had some staff that suffered with gout, and Josias would be there telling them what to eat, cut out the red meat, and have more veggies. Valuable moments we will always remember. Josias was my sanity check for the past 5 months while I was dealing and being a nurse for the treatment of the spider bite on my husband's back. Every morning, without catch-up, without fail, he will ask, "How's Spider-Man doing?" We will forever cherish his joyful spirit. His infectious laughter could light up any room and lift any heavy moment. He had an uncanny ability to find joy even in the midst of hard work, reminding us all that life, like engineering, should be approached with curiosity and passion, but also with lightness and love. With our birthdays, we were spoiled with his baking, carrot cake, his fridge cheesecake, recently quiche, and that prompted some of the ladies in the department to instigate a bake-off amongst the staff. Unfortunately, that moment didn't come. We all know Josias to be an avid runner, but wouldn't always worry about the finer details. A couple of years back, he drove down to Comrades, but he hadn't booked accommodation. So he just slept in his bakkie and ran the next day. But with recent years, I would literally sit at his desk and ensure that he books his accommodation. In this time of sorrow, we find comfort in the memories he has left us, the laughter we shared, the lessons we learned, the love and wisdom he imparted. Though his physical presence is no longer with us, his spirit will continue to guide, just as he did when he was alive. We had a joke between myself, Josias, and Rihanna that we would sound a bell and say school is out and that it's time to go home. Your final bell sounded, Josias, and you have gone home to be with your Maker. May your soul rest in peace and rise in glory. Thank you.
We have all had it. One of the key traits to be a successful head of school or a successful leader is to have good interpersonal skills, and I think, Lizelle, you really shared all those different perspectives that really spoke to this character part of Josias. I'm just trying to be mindful of time, and I'm going to drop the musical item for now. We are still going to have the choir at the end. So at this point, I would then like to invite Offense Tibedi, who is one of Josiah's students. Offense, if you can please come forward.
Program director, the family, the leadership of the school, the students, I would like to greet you all. As I have been introduced, my name is Offense Tibedi. I was a student at Wits University doing chemical engineering. I am currently an intern graduate, acting metallurgist at the Sibanye Stillwater, Marikana. What I will say now is nothing new. as compared to what previous speakers have said. But it will give an emphasis on the character of Prof. Josias, the man that he was. In my own opinion, which is reality, I think it was too soon for me to be coming to stand here and speak about my professor at this stage in life. As a leader, the only way you can measure your success is the amount of lives that you have touched. The greatest highlight that I had with Prof. Josias, it was when I was chairperson for the events committee in 2022 as a student leader. In my entire years of knowing Prof. Josias, I have never seen that man angry. All that I saw, it was always a smile. Prof. Josias, before he can even say hello, it's a smile first. You'll be greeted by his lovely smile, welcoming. I remember in 2022 when we wanted to have a gala dinner, when I went to him to ask for funds for the gala dinner. Prof. Josias suggested that we go to the Origin Center at Wits, but it was never part of the plan. We didn't want to go to Origin, but we wanted to go to the venue at Sentence Sky. That's when my negotiation skills were put to test that time, because I had to negotiate deeply with Prof because the venue was costing us more than 100,000. Prof. Josias was so generous to the point that he gave us 70,000 rand, contributed 70,000 rand for our gala dinner, final year gala dinner, which was successful at the venue in Zenton. I remember one of the days when we were planning for that gala dinner, I went to his office and he was like, Offense, I want 3 categories, which is the best student in metallurgy, the best student in chemical engineering, and the best leader of 2022. And you are that leader that I want to give an award to during the gala dinner. That man made me aware of my true potential as a leader. Sometimes as an individual, you just need someone to emphasize your true potential, and Prof. Josias did that. I've never felt belittled whenever I engaged with him. He always listened to what I wanted to say to him. And as a student, we know that we have this law that we call Newton's third law. A student will remain at rest until acted upon a submission date. Prof. Josias was a kind leader that would walk your shoes in a situation. He understood student needs. When we leave our homes, we leave our parents behind. We come to institutions like Wits without our parents. But in Prof. Josias, we found a father. We found a present father who was always there for us. When we requested for extension, he would listen to why you want that extension. And he will give his own judgment. But it was a judgment which was thoughtful and considerate. He was not a head of school for chemical and metallurgy in my wits. He was a head of a family in chemical and metallurgy. More than a lecturer, he gave hope to many that had lost it. He engineered dreams which were shattered. He made us. Today, I'm one of his products. I couldn't be here and be standing here at this moment in time if it wasn't of him. For God gives and he takes away, but now I wish God could have given us a few more years to spend with him. They say everything happens for a reason, but I'll never find a reason why Prof had to go so soon. I'll never comprehend why, but we shall console ourselves with Isaiah 57, verse 1, which reads as follows: Good people pass away, the godly often die before their time, but no one seems to care or wonder why. No one seems to understand that God is protecting them from the evil to come. For those who follow godly path will rest in peace when they die. Prof. Josias, from the student division, we have really lost. We lost a father in you. I had to do this for you, Prof. May your soul rest in peace. May all the memories that we shared together live in my mind. I remember during the week when I was going through my phone, most of the pictures, I had them with Prof. Josias at the school. He always wanted to partake when I was taking pictures. I would ask him, Prof, can I take a picture with you? Yes, Offenza, why not? To the family, you guys didn't lose alone. We all feel your pain. We all feel the pain as the school, as student, and as a family that is here. I thank you.
I've always had and watched Josias walking on campus. We meet in meetings, but I think the proceedings of today have opened our eyes much more, and we see beyond the face that we would see in Josias. We're seeing his heart. Head of school? No. That's what I've been saying all along, that even they didn't say he was head of school of Chem and Met. But I think Offense summed it up all for us, that he was a father. And I think it also spoke to what Liseo touched on. A father to the students who gave them hope, who was always welcoming them and assisted them in unlocking their potential. So his departure is not just a loss to the school, a loss to the university, a loss to the Van der Merwe family, but it is a loss to humanity. So on that note, I would like to then invite Mr. Emil Van der Merwe to please come forward and share with us. You have heard what we have said as a university, and we really thank you for, as a family, we thank you for the time that we have shared with Josias in the university. So I would like to welcome you to the podium.
as I was sitting over here, I was thinking about my brother, but the more I think about my brother, I think about our brother. And because there's something about our brother that is, I cannot explain this, but he's had a really deep impact on my life and our lives. And so our brother, just to tell you very quickly, he, in our family, there was I was born, and then my brother was born, Etienne, and then there was a miscarriage. And you know, in families, little things happen that is deep. It goes with you for a long time. And then my mother's pregnant again, and she had a baby boy. And I remember my father coming home, and he passed away after the first day. And then I went to school that day, and I didn't know where I was or what happened to me, and all day long I wanted to cry, and it was difficult, and I carried that for years afterwards. But then 13 years later, this miracle brother appeared, and we raced him around in the carts, and we ran with him, and we swam morning, noon, and night, strictly. But he was running around the pool. And then I remember one day he fell down and he broke his teeth, and they became all yellow. And not just yellow, but so he walked around with these teeth, and it was terrible. So then they fell out. Thank God they fell out. And they got new ones. But what happened was he stopped eating. And my mother goes, "Oh, this dear one is not doing well. He's dying because he's not eating." But he lived because he ate green peppers for 1 year. I remember, because the whole refrigerator was packed with green peppers, so I think he became a dietitian and a researcher. But anyway, but when he was little too, I remember he had diarrhea, and it was severe diarrhea, and nobody could stop it. And so we didn't. And you know, when there's a baby and the baby is limp and just close to death, it's very hard. And so somebody gave him some charcoal, this doctor, and he came back instantly. And it was amazing. So he was miraculous. So I have my daughter here, and she's have been absolutely wonderful, because she came to fetch me, and my son even got me a ticket so I could be here today, because it was such a shock. And so I need to speak quickly, because you've sat here a long time, and I don't want to take a lot of time. But what I want to say is, Josias even fell down a waterfall one time, and you wouldn't notice, but he injured his. So in many times, death was after him, because I think there's been such a war of his life, because what God had called him to. And the scripture this verse from 57, Isaiah 57, the one that I got was the one from 60, arise and shine for your light has come. And I really believe God he's arisen and he's with God. And his light has come. But I also think that scripture is for you, because God is arising upon you. Because in Africa, he's arising on you, and he's coming to do something through you. And I have no idea about chemistry or metallurgy, but I know, and I didn't even know my brother was a professor until a few months ago or something. I didn't know what he was doing, but that was Josias. He was just completely different. And so one time I was running, and they said it would be a very difficult run. But in few parts there's little pebbles. And so when I got to the pebble part, I found out the whole thing was pebble part. But at 16 kilometers, I couldn't go anymore. But all of a sudden, Josias came alongside of me, and he told me stories till the end. And then he encouraged me. From then on, I started trying to be like him. But don't try to be like somebody else, because it doesn't work, especially he runs so much. But anyway, he came alongside of me on a very long run, and he was just carrying me. I made it. Through the night we ran, and in the morning we made it, because Josias was there. So what I want to say is this, and I make it very quickly. And so I have forgotten, even some of my things here. I had a little book. It was sitting over there. See, it's so wonderful to have my daughter with me. Because she's absolutely, my head stopped working since I've come here, and she's just been there. So Yael, thank you so much. She's a little bit like Josias, and thank you. And so, thank you. Because those are very important things, but she found them. But so what I want to say about Josias is in this miraculous who he was and how he's helped, and how I've heard from you. It's like I never heard these things, even that he does things, but I've met his friends now, and wow, I just weep. And then I don't want to mention names because this is too much, but Professor Majosi, thank you so much for just and all the staff and all the built environment and the students. Thank you so much for what you meant to him, because I know it meant a lot. So, but why I'm saying this is because I think Josias is left, but the God of the universe is with you guys, because God and the people and the land, you cannot separate. And so if he's taken one, he is going to do something with you that is bigger than you have in your vision, I think. And so hold on to not Josias, but this what God wants to do in the land. So, I remember growing up, Josias was there and my grandmother was there. And so I would find my grandmother always on her knees. And it's posture. That posture goes into your heart. And there's religion. I have to tell you, brothers and sisters, there's religion, but then there's faith. And I've come to learn faith in Josias that I have not seen. So my grandmother would read something, and she would not just read it, she lived in that part of those Psalms of 22, 23, and 24. And that, I would suggest you go and digest that dietetically and academically, but may it come to your heart, because that part came into my heart, and many people, and I've seen it through his friends here that that is around us, and it's not religion, it's love. And so, and this love is something that is carrying, because I heard our brother. You spoke about our brother, and it's because of love is the it's not just the connection, but it's the fuel, it's the food. So my grandmother, she would have the pasture, and the pasture, I think, sunk into Josias, and then I tried to. So yesterday we buried him in a very remote place, and it was a little bit difficult to get there, but I wanted to find something, and suddenly I found something that she had written down. So I'm giving this to you so this will stay with you. The Psalm 22, 23, and 24 I give to you, but this I also give to you. If we ourselves shall be loved for a while and forgotten, but the love will have been enough. There is a land of the living and a land of the dead, and the bridge is love. And before I give you another thing, is basically a prayer that I found there too, is that I have to just tell you that what I know of Josias, I didn't know he was a professor, I didn't know he was doing all this chemistry and metallurgy, but I knew he didn't like to prune his trees too much, but he loved nature in an amazing way, but he loved God, and he sought after God. I cannot tell you, in the most strangest places, even in the jungles of Asia, he was there. And he found some friends there that turned into academics, and they were talking research together, because I knew them, but how people in the jungles talk about academics, but they did, those there did. And so, but I can tell you that he had a thing that happened to him with his maker. And that was not just a simple thing that happened, it was a thing that happened and then didn't stop happening. It kept happening, and it kept happening till he fell down, and until I was speaking to his neurosurgeon. So on that note I end. So God, give me work till my life shall end, and life till my work is done. Winifred Heath, I think it was. So may God give you work till your life ends, and may your life, and may He give you life, but His life till His work in you is done. Thank you so much, and I thank God for you guys receiving him in so much love and so much respect and dignity, and may God really pour a blessing that you will not contain. And we thank God for who he was, our brother. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And thank you to the Van der Merwe family for the time that we shared with Josias. And you really spoke about love being that bridge, and love that he shared. And when love is shared, it's not love lost. It's actually love doubled. And that speaks to the life of Josias. And you shared with us his life story and the fact that may his legacy live on. And on that note, I would like to then invite Professor Majosi to give us closing remarks, and then thereafter we'll have the choir.
Thank you, Prof. Musingwini. We can sense the resonance in the message, the convergence in the message. Speaker after speaker said more or less the same thing about Josias. And that consistency alone talks volumes about who Josias was. In short, what we gather from this is that he was a man of great humor, a man of great humility, a good listener, we heard, a man of deep kindness, a scholar, a teacher, and above all else, a man of God. He was a man of God. Everything else was underpinned by that spiritual dimension that he harbored. Particularly on the humorous side, as people were talking about Josiah smiling and his humor, something came to my mind. I think it was on one occasion, it could have been Professor Polese Claudia. We have a faculty executive committee, and the tradition is that the front end of that meeting, we invite people to say a few words, and then they leave, depending on their portfolios. So Professor Polese is the faculty head of transformation. So she comes and talks about transformation issues, but ideally they would have to leave so that we continue with the core of the meeting, which is the faculty executive committee meeting. So I always say when they present, after they've presented, I would say, you are at liberty to stay, but it would be better if you leave. So Professor Polese stayed, I think, on that occasion, and Josias came in and said, it will be better if you leave. So I recall that quite vividly. So he always seized the moment, and you are right, Sunny, he manufactured jokes. Right, I would like to thank all the speakers this afternoon, spoke so well, and spoke for all of us. I would also like to thank the events team, really Tembelihle and your team, as always, for all the arrangements. You did not disappoint. Our program director, Professor Musingwini, for your eagle-eyed acuity and keeping us on track. We did well on time, despite a deservedly loaded program. I know that we were supposed to finish a bit earlier, but I think we did well overall. Thank you for that. I just want to thank the choir, CHMT choir, for filling this room with the fitting warmth and emotion, creating a truly special atmosphere for us. We are truly grateful for your contribution. By the way, this choir is the youngest choir. It's very, very new. It's hardly 2 years old, so very, very young choir. Our old choir is CEM. Unfortunately, they could not be here, Construction Economics and Management. Again, the family for being with us here and for sharing their brother, their uncle with us. That means a lot. to us. To the School of Chemical and Metallurgical Engineering, I said this to you the other day. Let's keep the wheels turning. And always remember that our best tribute to Josias is to keep his legacy alive. I painted the legacy in my earlier message. We know exactly what Josias stood for, and the best tribute is to live up to that at all times. And in closing, I just want to say to all of us, these too shall pass. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that draws to a close this afternoon's proceedings. And thank you all for coming and for colleagues who have been attending the proceedings online. Thank you. Travel safely.